Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling strangely exhausted, even though nothing dramatic happened? Maybe you agreed to something you didn't really want to do. Maybe you stayed silent when you wanted to speak up. Or perhaps you smiled, nodded, and pretended everything was fine while a completely different conversation was happening inside your head. These moments often seem insignificant at the time, but when they happen repeatedly, they can slowly erode something incredibly important: your relationship with yourself. Many people believe confidence is built by learning new skills, achieving goals, or receiving praise from others. While those things can certainly help, there's another factor that often matters even more. Confidence grows when your actions consistently align with your thoughts, values, and beliefs. In other words, confidence grows when you feel like you are being genuinely yourself. The opposite is also true. Every time you ignore your own instincts, suppress your opinions, or abandon your needs to keep someone else comfortable, you create a small crack in that foundation. What makes this pattern so difficult to recognize is that it is often rewarded. Society tends to praise people who are agreeable, accommodating, and endlessly understanding. From an early age, many people learn that being accepted is safer than being authentic. They discover that expressing disagreement can create tension, while staying quiet often keeps the peace. Over time, this creates a powerful habit. Instead of asking, "What do I actually think about this?" people begin asking, "What response will make everyone else comfortable?" At first, this seems harmless. After all, compromise is part of healthy relationships. The problem begins when compromise turns into self-abandonment. When your own thoughts, preferences, and boundaries are consistently pushed aside, your identity becomes blurred. You start adapting so frequently to the expectations of others that it becomes difficult to remember what you genuinely want. The result is often a quiet sense of frustration that appears without an obvious cause. Many people describe this feeling as being stuck, disconnected, or emotionally drained. They cannot explain why they feel resentful, because technically nothing terrible has happened. Yet deep down, they know they have been ignoring themselves for far too long. The mind keeps score of these moments. Every time you silence your truth, your brain notices. Every time you act against your own values, your brain notices. And eventually, the growing gap between who you are and how you behave begins affecting your confidence, your energy, and your overall sense of well-being. The uncomfortable truth is that confidence is not only about what you achieve. It is also about whether you can trust yourself to be honest about who you are. And that is where this dangerous habit begins revealing its true cost. One of the reasons authenticity feels so difficult is because human beings are naturally wired for belonging. Throughout history, being accepted by a group increased the chances of survival. As a result, our brains pay close attention to social approval, criticism, and rejection. Even today, many people fear judgment far more than they realize. The possibility of disappointing someone, creating conflict, or being misunderstood can feel surprisingly threatening, even when the actual consequences are relatively small. Because of this, many people become experts at managing perceptions. They carefully choose their words, soften their opinions, and avoid conversations that might create discomfort. On the surface, this can look like kindness or diplomacy. However, when the habit becomes extreme, it creates an exhausting internal conflict. Instead of living from a place of honesty, people begin living from a place of constant calculation. The challenge is that emotional suppression never truly disappears. Thoughts that are ignored do not vanish. Feelings that are denied do not magically resolve themselves. They simply move underground. Over time, those hidden emotions often return as frustration, resentment, anxiety, or burnout. Someone may believe they are avoiding conflict, but in reality, they are simply postponing it. The conflict eventually reappears, often in a larger and more complicated form. This is why boundaries are so important. Many people misunderstand boundaries and assume they are walls designed to keep others out. Healthy boundaries are actually something very different. They are a way of communicating where you end and someone else begins. They help protect your energy, your values, your priorities, and your emotional well-being. Without boundaries, relationships often become confusing because people start expecting you to sacrifice more and more of yourself to maintain harmony. What makes boundaries difficult is that they often create temporary discomfort. Someone may disagree with you. Someone may feel disappointed. Someone may not understand your decision. Yet, avoiding those moments does not eliminate discomfort. It simply transfers the discomfort onto you. Instead of someone else feeling uncomfortable for a few minutes, you end up carrying frustration for weeks, months, or even years. True confidence begins growing when you stop measuring your worth by how pleased everyone else is with you. It grows when you realize that disagreement is not rejection and that honesty is not selfishness. In fact, authenticity often creates stronger relationships because it allows people to connect with the real you, rather than a carefully edited version designed to earn approval. The moment you stop managing every interaction for acceptance, you create space for something much more valuable: genuine self-respect. Learning to be more authentic does not require dramatic confrontations or major life changes. In fact, the most meaningful transformations often begin with small acts of honesty that gradually strengthen your sense of self. The first step is becoming aware of where you regularly abandon your own truth. Notice the situations where you automatically say yes when you want to say no. Notice the conversations where you hide your opinion. Notice the moments when you minimize your needs to avoid disappointing someone else. Awareness alone can be surprisingly powerful because many of these patterns operate on autopilot. Once you begin recognizing them, you create the opportunity to make a different choice. That choice does not need to be aggressive or confrontational. Authenticity is not about forcing your opinions onto other people. It is about allowing your thoughts, feelings, and values to have a place at the table. The next step is practicing small moments of courage. Perhaps you express a preference instead of automatically deferring to someone else. Maybe you decline a request that would leave you overwhelmed. Maybe you share an honest opinion even though part of you worries it will not be popular. These moments may feel uncomfortable initially, but they send an important message to your brain. My voice matters. Over time, these experiences begin rebuilding self-trust. You stop seeing yourself as someone who constantly adapts to every external expectation, and start recognizing yourself as someone who can navigate discomfort without abandoning who they are. The confidence that emerges from this process feels very different from confidence based on achievement or external validation. It feels steadier because it comes from alignment rather than approval. What is remarkable is that people often become more relaxed, more emotionally resilient, and more connected to others when they stop trying so hard to be liked. Authenticity reduces internal tension because there is no longer a constant gap between your private reality and your public behavior. You no longer have to remember which version of yourself you presented to which person. You simply become yourself. And perhaps that is the greatest gift of authenticity. It allows you to experience a kind of freedom that cannot be created through status, success, or recognition. The freedom of knowing that your thoughts, your actions, and your values are finally moving in the same direction. Because when you stop abandoning yourself to gain approval, you begin building something far more valuable than popularity. You begin building a life rooted in self-respect, honesty, and genuine confidence. The next chapter is waiting for you in the playlist on screen. Subscribe to Clever Girl Academy and continue your journey toward becoming your strongest self.